Right, okay, let's move on to Liverpool. Mo Salah has chucked Arne Slot under so many buses that Stagecoach are actually launching a new route through Anfield. The Liverpool talisman, Salah, is going to play his last game for the club on Sunday, apparently, when the team take on Brentford at Anfield. It's very difficult, though, isn't it, for him to play or not to play? I don't know what you do if you're Arne Slot, 'cause if you don't play him, you're basically denying a legend a big goodbye, and therefore undermining your relationship with the supporters even further.
Yeah.
If you do play him, he's undermined your authority and you're giving in to him. So it's a very difficult situation for Arne Slot to manage. He's certainly not going quietly. Do you think that he has done himself an injustice by leaving in this manner?
Yeah, I do. And actually, I saw a tweet from a journalistic colleague of ours saying, if you're going to leave a football club, do it like Andy Robertson, don't do it like Mo Salah. And I get where he's coming from. You know, I thought the timing of the statement halfway through the FA Cup final, less than 24 hours after a heavy defeat at Aston Villa, was poor. And I think the sentiment of the statement is poor. You know, it's not a thinly veiled swipe at his manager. It's a public condemnation. The fact he's used the phrase rock and roll football. You know, that
heavy
is
metal attacking team that opponents fear, and getting back to a team that wins trophy. It's been very painful, not what our fans deserve.
Yeah, I mean, that's a clear reference to Jurgen Klopp and, you know, a clear attempt to undermine Arne Slot and to further fracture what is already a very frosty relationship with the Liverpool supporters. But you're right, if he doesn't play him, and I wouldn't, you know, if I was a manager, I wouldn't want to see him again. But if he doesn't play him and give him that Anfield farewell, any fans that are still with Arne Slot are very quickly going to join those dissenting voices. So I don't envy the position that Mo Salah has put him in. But I think there's also a lack of awareness from Mo Salah. You look at the drop-off in his standards individually from last season to this. He has been as big a factor, if not the biggest factor, in Liverpool's decline and their pitiful defence of the title. But this is a guy who clearly doesn't have any self-awareness. You know, he kicked off when Arne Slot, rightly, in my opinion, took him out of the team because he wasn't performing earlier in the season. And I think the Liverpool hierarchy will hold their nerve. I think they'll see this for what it is, probably not even written by Mo Salah, probably written by his agent on Salah's behalf. And they'll see it as a sort of vicious parting swipe at the manager. And I actually think Arne Slot will keep his dignity. He'll bat the questions away in his press conference, and he will give Mo Salah that farewell that probably, with what he's done to the manager, he doesn't deserve.
I wonder what Arne Slot's standing is in the Liverpool dressing room, because looking at the responses to Mo Salah's tirade, let's call it that, on Instagram, he seems to have a bit of support in the dressing room.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the people that liked it, commented on it. You know, it doesn't bode well, does it, going forward for Arne Slot? It's almost as if the whole playing staff has got together and decided, hold on a second, we need to put pressure on the hierarchy to get rid of this fella. The fact that they were holding firm and saying they weren't going to do that, and now it feels like there is a tidal wave of pressure being applied by the playing staff, it sort of leads Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes with no choice, really, to make a change. I don't think it's been made that much of, because Salah is Salah and Curtis Jones is Curtis Jones. But Curtis Jones also released a statement, didn't he, straight afterwards?
Yeah, but he's another player I think who'll be leaving the club at the end of the season. I think actually he still feels a bit sore that he wasn't allowed to go over to Inter Milan in January when they were sniffing around. But you're right, that the volume of players, new and old actually, you know, people like Milos Kerkez, who've not been at the football club very long, likes the post, and it is a problem, I think, for Arne Slot and the Liverpool hierarchy. As I say, they've always been steadfast throughout the season. They want this manager to stay. They believe in him. The analytics that got him the job in the first place and led them to that Premier League title last season still hold firm. But certainly when it comes to supporters, and seemingly, as you say, a big contingent in that dressing room, he isn't Mr. Popular, is he? So it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out.
I don't want to remove anybody from a job, but it does seem to me as if it's a little bit of an untenable situation if the fan base largely wants you removed and the playing staff feel the same way. That is that is a problem, I think, that is going to be very difficult for him to turn around. Now, my dealings with Arne Slot are cordial. I
Mm.
think he's very polite. I think the way he analyzes football when he talks about it is really quite impressive. He's very calm. He never seems to lose his temper. But a bit like, and I just, look, I'm not giving away any secrets here. Jurgen Klopp would put on this little veneer when he came in front of the cameras or the microphone was on. He was very sort of ebullient and happy and have a joke and ha, 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 ha. It was all that. When that microphone went off and when that camera went off, he was a different guy. I know that's what the public see, but being around it, that he was a bit different to that, right? I don't think everybody thinks he walks around like that all the time, laughing like Eddie Murphy. The fact is that Arne Slot comes across to me when I see him as quite a polite individual, quite composed. I'm not necessarily sure again that that's always the case when he's in the dressing room, because I don't know. I've never experienced that, but I've never seen that change. Whereas with Klopp, I did sort of see the change
Yeah.
briefly. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you experienced that. He just comes across well to me, Arne Slot.
Yeah, and he's been described to me by people who know him well as fundamentally a decent and nice human being. So it's strange how quickly this has all unravelled. I do think there's still a lot of emotions in that Liverpool dressing room because of what happened in the summer and the tragic passing of Diogo Jota. A couple of Liverpool fans have actually come for me on social media for sort of, in their eyes, using his death as an excuse. But it is a factor, in what's happened this season. You can't take away from that. The people who played with him and loved him have been badly affected. The new players, and there were a lot of them coming into the dressing room, probably didn't know how to handle themselves in that situation because it's such a unique environment they're walking into. So then you factor in the injuries to key players. Alexander Isak in particular has had no season at all. Their record signing because of injury, Florian Wirtz, I think has taken a bit of time to adapt. Kirkes has been really disappointing, which has surprised me because he looks a really good player at Bournemouth. So Ekitike, probably the one shining light of their summer signings, has picked up an injury that is going to rule him out for the summer and a large chunk of next season as well. I think it's not an injury that you recover from quickly. So everything that could go against Liverpool has gone against them, but certainly the tide of public opinion is very much against the manager.
And the football's been crap. And that ultimately is the biggest problem. And that's why the tide of public opinion has turned against him, because it's been so dull to watch and they haven't enjoyed it. And when you don't enjoy what you're going to watch and you're paying big prices and you're traveling all over Europe watching your team and they're not winning, that's a big problem.